Some ghosts don't haunt graveyards. They hunt the hems of gowns, buttons of blouses, the seams of secrets, stitched too tightly to breathe. There's a little shop on the corner on Charlemagne Street in St. Rosalie, barely a blink of a town near the Louisiana Bayou. Sits crooked on its foundation now, like it's bowing from the weight of time. But if you squint, you can still make out the lettering on the frosted glass door. DuVall's Dress Shop, custom designed since 1897. They say that shop closed decades ago, and yet the bell above the door still rings on some nights, even when there's no one near the threshold. Colette DuVall was once the most sought-after seamstress in St. Rosalie. The wealthy, the debutantes, the brides, they all came to her for gowns that fit like a memory. She was quiet, kept to herself, never married, wore her raven hair in a tight bun and her spectacles on a chain. You know the look. But oh, how she stitched. Every dress from DuVall's was a masterpiece. Draped in velvet, stitched with lace, and smelling faintly of roses and candle wax. The townsfolk said she put pieces of her own soul into each gown. And maybe she did. The town's lore centers on one dress in particular. It was the summer of 1912. A girl named Eloise Moreau, young, shy, and sweet as sugar, was getting married to a man from New Orleans. She brought Colette a swatch of blush silk and said, "Make me look like the garden at dusk." Now, Colette worked night and day on that gown. It was pale rose with hand-stitched pearls and a lace train that trailed like mist. She even crafted a matching veil, the embroidery with tiny blossoms. But Eloise never wore it. 2 days before the wedding, she vanished. Some say she ran away. Others whisper darker things. Her fiancé left town. Her family moved away. And Colette, well, she folded the blush wedding dress carefully and placed it in the back room. She never took another commission after that. But she never stopped sewing either. Neighbors reported hearing the machine humming late into the night, lighting on in the back window, and sound of scissors on a woman humming. And no one ever saw Colette again. Not in church, not in town, not even at the grocer's. When she stopped answering the door, they assumed that she died. But no body was ever found. And the shop? Well, it was locked. Not boarded up, just closed. And that little brass bell above the door, well, it still rings sometimes. In the 1970s, a girl named Justine was hitchhiking through the South, running from something she wouldn't talk about. One rainy evening, she found herself in St. Rosalie, soaked to the bone. She saw the dress shop and ducked inside to escape the storm. She swore the shop was lit by candles, that the shelves were lined with gowns in every shade of red and pink, and that behind the counter stood an older woman in a high-collared dress and wire spectacles. The woman never spoke, just gestured for her to come in, offered her for some dry clothes and a cup of rose tea. When Justine woke the next morning, she was lying on a chaise in an empty room. Wasn't no tea, and wasn't no woman. But on the table next to her was a gown, velvet burgundy. Her size exactly, with her name embroidered on the hem. More stories followed. Local teenager dared his friends to break into the shop, claimed he found a room full of mirrors and mannequins wearing antique dresses. But when he turned to leave, he saw himself in the mirror, wearing a dress, not his own clothes. But it stopped being funny when he found that his lips were stitched shut with fine pink thread in the reflection, and the reflection cried, even though he did not. He fled and refused to ever speak of it again. The others thought he was lying until one of the girls went in weeks later. She came back wearing gloves that she didn't own, and her palms were scarred like she'd been burned by a steam iron. In the 90s, the town tried to tear the building down. Developers wanted a coffee shop. We need another one of those, don't we? The night before demolition, the backhoe engine caught fire without cause. Twice. A third time, the bulldozer operator quit mid-job. Said he saw someone watching him from the second-story window. A woman holding up a lace veil with both hands. She vanished before he could call out. When he entered the shop the next day out of sheer stubbornness, he swore he saw an unfinished dress on the sewing machine, the needle still warm. Now, visitors who pass the old storefront today say it's almost feels just a little too cold on that corner, even for July. Some swear they see candlelight flickering at dusk and a figure in a long dress moving behind the frosted glass. The florist once left a rose on the doorstep, and the next morning it was gone. But in its place, a button, a blush button, blush pink, with a single drop of dried red wax on it, like sealing a love letter that was never sent. Well, they say every dress ever made by Colette DuVall still exists somewhere, tucked in trunks, hidden in attics, hanging in old wardrobes across the south. And when the moon is high, the air still, they rustle. Not from breeze, not from moths. They rustle because they remember the hands that made them, and the grief they felt, the obsession, the stories no one told. Because Colette didn't just stitch fabric, she stitched feeling. And maybe, well, just maybe, that last blush wedding dress, the one never worn, still waits, still hopes, and still cries. Join us tomorrow night for more Southern Gothic tales.
Everyone, it's Jenna, and we're back with Southern Skeins Gothic Tales, Day 10. Are we ready to dive in and see what we've got today? Let's take a look. Here we go, Day 10. As y'all know, I'm knitting the worsted one, 100% superwash merino. And why is that? Because if you know me, you know I'm a slow knitter, so I use bigger yarn. Okay. Ooh, I love this color. Okay, and this is Day 10. The Haunting of Widow DuVall's Dress Shop. Madame DuVall's gowns were unmatched until she died mysteriously. Customers who buy vintage pieces sewn by her hand say they hear whispers in French, ooh la la, and feel hands adjusting their colors. Day 10. So when I was thinking of French gowns and dresses in New Orleans in the South, I was thinking this blue. To me, that was just perfect. This blue. What about you? Do you like the blue? I do.